Welcome to the Brains Are Us podcast, brought to you by Centerpoint Research Institute. Each week, we explore the tools, insights, and breakthroughs that help you unlock your full potential. Whether it's mind-expanding research, powerful personal development strategies, or transformative stories, you're in the right place to upgrade your brain and your life. Today's episode features ADHD coach, author, and advocate Brooke Schnittman. Join MaryEllen and Brooke as they dive into the real challenges and hidden strengths of living with ADHD, the role of compassion in parenting neurodivergent kids, and the practical tools that help turn overwhelm into empowerment. This is an insightful, heartfelt conversation you won't want to miss. Now here's your host, Centerpoint CEO, MaryEllen Tribby.
Welcome, Brooke. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And before we start, we're going to do a full disclosure that Brooke and I have known each other for, 10 years, Brooke? Maybe longer?
Close to it.
Yeah.
Close to it.
And basically, we met because we were on the same tennis team here in Boca Raton, Florida. And I share that little bit because I think it's really interesting that people find their tribe, right, Brooke? Like there were a zillion ladies on the team. Most of them really just played tennis, but you and I both did these very synergistic things, and we just remained friends, even though we've gone on to different teams. But through the years, we've still been friends and interested in helping each other in our careers and on our journey. So I just thought that was kind of special to bring up.
Yeah, we have a great connection, and I think it's so powerful that you step outside of work for a second and do what brings you joy. And then within that, very often you're finding these connections, like you said, these synergies that kind of carry on and work for both of you.
And so it is, life is a journey. And that's really where I want to start with you today. I'd love to hear about your journey because you were diagnosed with ADHD yourself, and you've built this amazing career around helping others navigate it. What was that moment when you realized you wanted to turn your personal experience into a mission?
Yes. Whew. My experience is not very common. Yes, it's common to get a late diagnosed ADHD diagnosis in women, but the way in how I found out was very uncommon. So I'll start with this. So in 2006, I graduated, got then undergrad in elementary education, and there was one special education class. And I said, oh, this is interesting. Let me just jump into my master's and get a master's in students with disabilities. So I did that. And then the day after I graduated, I was a special education teacher. And then after that, assistant director of special education. So I did all of that for like 15 years. And yeah, and I was working directly with ADHD, anxiety, learning disabilities with the students and their families. So fast forward, I'm in administration and I'm saying to myself, I'm not really excited about this anymore. I'm not working with people. I'm not working directly with the students. So I'm not seeing the impact. It's not bringing me joy. So I moved to Florida, met you, and played some tennis and got coached. And then within 6 months of getting coached, I stumbled upon someone who, again, like your journey and my journey, who was an ADHD coach. So she said, you'd be great at ADHD coaching. I said, I don't know what it is, but sign me up. So I got my degrees, my certifications, and then started coaching. And 6 months into that, when I moved from in-person to online, students then to adults, I said, whoa, this looks familiar. Now, I didn't recognize it in the students I used to work with, but when I was working with adults, I already, as an ADHD coach, didn't know I had ADHD. So I know. Is that wild? So I'm working with the adults and I'm loving the sessions. I'm so hyper focused on it, but then I have to change and shift my attention to notes and then come back to working with clients and then go to notes and come back. And that shifting attention and doing notes. Ugh, who wants to do notes with ADHD, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't excited about that. And it was hard for me to shift my attention. So that was just one thing that started sparking my, oh my gosh, I think I have this. So I got the diagnosis of combined type ADHD. And then I got medicated with Adderall because I was already using the tools that were helping me with my clients. So I was compensating
Yeah.
and I got coached. And then 6 months after that, I met my non-diagnosed ADHD husband and his two non-diagnosed ADHD sons. And now we're one big family of 5 with ADHD.
Which is amazing because, you know, ADHD and motherhood, I mean, it's a wild combo. And we're both moms, and 2 out of 3 of my kids have ADHD. And again, the same like Connor, he was diagnosed early. Delaney wasn't diagnosed until she was a freshman in college. And
Yeah.
so, you know, how has being a mom influenced the way you coach others with ADHD, especially maybe parents of ADHD kids?
Yeah. So obviously, I can relate. And I always start with empathy and compassion. I think moms in general, and I'm sure you know this in all of the work that you've done with moms, that we take on the load in families. We just do. It's the nurturing part of us. But then you have ADHD and you're trying to manage yourself. And now you have to manage your child with ADHD. And it is chaos and it's overwhelming and it's emotional. And there's a lot of comparison and rejection. So I start with compassion for the parent and also the child
Yeah.
too, because they didn't choose this, right? They were born with it.
Yeah.
And then once we start with the compassion, we talk about, okay, what do you love about your child? What are you seeing? Do some observations of your child. Let's put some pictures of like fun memories, right? Let's start with that. And then from there, talk about your major concerns about your child and what you want to get out of the coaching, right? And the smaller concerns, let's not go there right now because we're always going to have concerns about other people. Let's try to focus on the big concerns.
Yeah, that's really good because, as a parent, your heart is, at first my heart was broke, kind of broken, but then I said, you know what? This is just who they are. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, so um
No.
and
But when
so
you
okay,
when you have so much, I'm sorry to interrupt.
no.
It's my ADHD. Um, when you have so much on your plate, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And we know in the coaching industry, you can't take care of someone else if you're not taking care of yourself.
Yep.
And with that very little space for yourself left, right? And pretty much operating on empty almost all the time for moms with ADHD and children with ADHD, it's harder to parent and it's harder to regulate your emotions. But we have to. We have to take care of ourselves so we can become for our children who are also struggling.
Right. And that kind of brings up, like, you talk about helping people move past the chaos, the frustration, and the shame. And that's really, like, to me, that's, like, the most important part because I would never want my kids to feel the shame, like, shameful because they have this. But what are some of the biggest emotional roadblocks your clients face, and how do you help them reframe those experiences?
Yeah. So not their child not doing things the way that they want them to, or oh, the house is a mess. I've told them to clean this up, or oh, the clothes are right next to the hamper. Like, how can they not just pick it up and put it in there? Are you
Yeah.
kidding?
Right.
It's just like I don't want to use the word devil, but it's like Tasmanian, right? All over the house,
Yeah.
and you know where they've been. And then the short fuse too, because children with ADHD get 20,000 more negative messages before the age of 10 than neurotypicals. So as a parent with ADHD and a child with ADHD, you're constantly being swamped with these negative subconscious and conscious messages. So now you're adding something else to their plate that they're not doing the way that you want them to do it. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't be ever about you, right? So
Right.
uh, we'll talk about that too. But Now they're feeling offended. Now they're feeling rejected,
Yeah.
and they get into freeze, fight, flight, fib, fawn mode.
Yeah.
And then that triggers you as the parent more like, oh, why won't they just listen? And then another thing I think is huge is that we compare ourselves to the family across the street. We just do. We compare ourselves with their kids, their relationships, with their spouses. You got to meet your child where they are and meet them as an individual and work with them and their language. So it takes a lot of work.
I was listening to Adam Levine once on an interview. For everybody who doesn't know, he's the lead singer of Maroon 5.
And he's
he
very
has-
attractive.
very attractive, but he has severe ADHD. And he would say, like, his parents used to just yell at him, focus, focus. And he said, and I'll never forget this, he's like, that's like saying to somebody, speak French. Like, you've never had a French lesson, right? You've never, even thought about it, but speak French, right? And it's because their brains don't work that way. So I thought that was just such like so good for parents to understand that it's a whole different brain that you're dealing with here.
We are not lazy. We are not dumb. Actually, some of the smartest people out there have ADHD.
Mhm.
And we are not creative. We are extremely creative, enthusiastic, excited, intuitive. Those are many of the strengths of people with ADHD. But yes, when you say, "Ah, you're so lazy," or like, "How could you not do that? I told you to do that,"
Right.
or "Focus," or "Hello," all
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
They absorb, and then it becomes part of their identity.
Right.
And I know you're not trying to do that as a parent. It is so hard.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And these kids and young adults, they don't have to just survive. They can survive, like you said. Like, my son is like the smartest kid I know. I mean, he's 24, right? But it's not like he'll never sit down and read a book, but he watches videos and retains everything and can apply that thought. So, what are a few practical tools or systems that you love recommending to those kids with ADHD or those young adults just to create like more consistency in their daily lives?
Yeah. So have a family meeting and do some collaborative problem solving. So Ross Green is an expert in parenting and children with ADHD. So he talks about the collaborative problem solving approach, which is not you telling the child what's happening, right? But you working together to create solutions and a plan. So if they're the ones coming up with it, they'll have more ownership in it. And then create accountability around that plan on when it works for both parties, right? And stop the if you don't do this, blah, 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 because that's about you, right?
Yeah.
But if you do this, then you get this,
Yeah.
right? So let's try to reward our children for doing the thing that they've committed to. Now, if you have a teenager, I have two with ADHD, and they're my stepsons, and if you know anything about teenagers, there's raging hormones, right? So now I have two ADHDers, one who's extremely inattentive and one who's extremely hyperactive, right? So if you tell them, and I'm losing my train of thought here, so bear with me, but if you tell them, you have to do this now, right? Yeah. No, thank you. That's not going to happen. And they're
Right.
probably going to become defiant because defiance is a learned behavior. But if you say, okay, we talked about this together as a family, and we decided collaboratively that you can have it done by X time. I don't care how you do it,
Right.
just as long as it's done by 9 p.m., then it's fine, right? So they could be waiting till the last minute, 8:30 p.m.,
Yeah.
and do it all. And it might not be the way that you're doing it, but at least it's getting done. So that's one thing. And another thing is like allow them their space. So rooms. Rooms are their precious area, just like yours. If it's messy, close the door. You don't, yes, technically you do own their room, but let them own it, right? You pay the bills, but allow them to have a safe space where they can calm down, they can regulate and do whatever, as long as it's safe, they need to do so they can feel ownership in it. I'll tell you a really funny story and then I'll move on to some more things. When I didn't know I had ADHD growing up, I was diagnosed with anxiety, low grade depression, auditory processing disorder, saw therapists on and off my whole life until I found out I had ADHD. I forgot to include that. But We grew up in a house that got robbed twice. Okay. Guess what room was not robbed?
You're right.
I had mounds of clothing on the floor. And my whole theory is, well, they must have thought the other person already like ransacked the room and threw all the clothes on it, right? There were mounds that I had to get over to get out the door. But you know what? It was my room.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just one thing. And then have a calming down place for them too, whether it be the room or somewhere else. So with your children, have come up with like a calm kit. So maybe it's punching their pillow, maybe it's listening to loud music and they can do it in their room or outside. Maybe it's, throwing the ball at a target. Maybe it's punching this punching bag, whatever it
Yeah.
is, stimulation, having fidgets. Create that with them. So when they get dysregulated, there's nothing you can do in that moment to calm them down. They have to have that quick place that they can go to. Don't try to calm them down. Let them feel their emotions because they have to.
See, I think that's beautiful because I will tell you that Connor was always extremely stubborn and he would not take the Adderall. Like, he was in, 5th grade and he didn't like how it made him feel. So he refused. So he needed those kind of outlets, you know,
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
school, and luckily, he found sports and baseball and football and things like that, but he refused to take those kind of things. He's point blank said, "Mom, I'm not myself." And so, whereas Delaney has had terrific results with taking, the medication. So each kid, each person is different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And so some people who have high anxiety, it might not be best for them in the effects of stimulants. And also like heart conditions, stimulants might not work for them. So 80% of people, ADHD medication works, for 20% it doesn't. So
Mhm.
yes, regardless if you take medication or not, you still have to have behavioral strategies because we all heard pills don't teach skills. You have to know what it is that you want to focus on, how to prioritize,
Yes.
what your values are, what you believe in. The
Yes.
other thing I want to just share with parents is that motivation for children or parents with ADHD comes from an acronym I came up with: BOUNCE. Belief, opportunity, urgency, novelty, challenge, and excitement. If your child or you do not have that, it's going to be very hard for them to get motivated because dopamine levels are so dysregulated with people with ADHD. The baseline is a lot lower and they go really low when they're underwhelmed and not excited about the task, and really high when they're hyper focusing.
Yes.
So try with them to find how to make that homework more novel, or, time it, gamify it, do it for 30 minutes and then like beat the clock. Come up with strategies like that with them. And if you do this, then you get that reward.
Yeah.
Remember? If they aren't motivated about something, help them break things down in such a small way where they build that momentum to get the motivation. Because sometimes we have to like fake our way into the motivation as well, just like adults do.
Yeah. I love that. Tell everybody what bounce means again, because that's a writer downer. That is awesome.
Thank you. You have to believe in something because we are very justice seeking. So if we don't believe in something, sorry, I don't see how this is going
Yes.
to work out. We need opportunity. So what's going to come from me doing this? Am I going to get an A? Is that the reward? Am I going to move up in the workplace as an adult? Am I going to make more money? Like, what is opportunity out of this?
Yes.
Urgency. The deadline needs to happen like yesterday because people with ADHD are now or not now. We do not have time horizon. It is very challenging for us to see a month down the road, a week down the road. So urgency is really important. So when you're trying to prepare for a test that's a week away, help your child break that down into small pieces to prepare for the test with rewards along the way. So there is a little bit of urgency to beat the clock. Novelty, it has to be new. Our brains hate boring. Actually, we're extremely underwhelmed by that, and dopamine will not surge if something is boring. All right. Challenging. It needs to be a little bit hard for us. It can't be super easy because if we just keep doing something that's easy, then we're not going to necessarily be motivated to do it. And then excitement. It has to be interesting. It has to be exciting for us to want to do it.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that.
This episode of Brains Are Us is brought to you by Procrastination Eliminator, a highly effective solution to the worst habit of them all, procrastination. With effective affirmations that rewrite your self-talk, a 28-day action plan, and one-on-one accountability coaching, this is the ultimate comprehensive tool for those who want to leave their procrastination tendencies behind for good. Go to myholosync.com/brains24 to learn more.
You've helped thousands and now you lead a team. What have you learned from building a team of ADHD coaches? How do you match clients with the right coach? And what makes those relationships successful?
So, in building my team with ADHD coaches, where almost all of them have ADHD themselves, we got to work with the neurodivergent brain. It's not your neurotypical building a team, do this and just get it done, right? So, first, I need to work with the coaches to make sure that I am meeting their learning styles and we are connecting and being accountable to one another in a way that works for them. Like, I had a coach who hated taking notes. So I said, just record them, like put it in a voice memo. This was before Fathom and all the recording platforms. Just put it into a voice memo and copy and paste it and put it into the portal. I don't care if you type it or write it. So something like that. So they feel like they're being heard, they're being valued, and we're meeting their unique learning styles. Okay. So there's that first, right?
Yeah.
So then after that, pairing them with a client comes from what is the personality type of this person? Is this person funny, engaging? Does that person in the coachee need that type of personality? Or do they need someone who's a little bit more serious and to the point, do this, like, let's get going, right? Or, I have another coach who is in the LGBTQ community. Some people feel safer if they're in that community to work with him as well. I have a coach who is working on her PhD, who's a little bit more brainy. So some people might work with her. Entrepreneurs might work with me. So we have the differences in the types of coaching styles and their backgrounds and what the results typically are in the type of people that they work with. I also have a coach who works with couples. Not everyone does that. I have coaches who work with parents. Not everyone does that. I have a coach who is a Dave Ramsey financial graduate, right? So she can help with financial productivity and other productivity. So there's different uniquenesses in each coach. That's how we pair them.
That is fantastic. It just really saying that this does not discriminate, right? Like this, affects every walk of life, which
It
is
does.
amazing. And, who would have thunk like somebody like Adam Levine, right? Like, or, so many people that have, like you and I know so many entrepreneurs with this, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
and they're brilliant. They're brilliant,
Brilliant.
right? And it's crazy though, because, they might just get up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and start their thing then because that's how it works for them.
That's how they operate. You have to meet your needs where they're at. Perhaps you might not get the best amount of sleep, but if that's your most creative time, then you work with it and you figure it out.
Yeah.
So you never want to make a person fit into a box and just do it. I actually heard one of my clients today from Thursday Activation say to me, what I learned from this course is not just do it, just tool it. So you create your toolbox and then you use the tool that works for you to thrive with your brain. If you can manage your ADHD, then I do believe it's a superpower. If you can't manage your ADHD, that's where all the shame, rejection, depression, anxiety, stress, all of that comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, because last year when Delaney went off to college, because she was homeschooled all those years, we never just caught it because she could do what she when she wanted to. And then
she played tennis.
And she played tennis. And then she went off to scholarship at Tulane. And the classes were hard and she had to get up for them and she had to fit into that schedule that she never had to do before. And that's really how we discovered it, which is
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people, when they go to college, whether or not they know they have ADHD, how hard it is for them. Because
yeah,
growing up, you have your teachers. In her case, it was whoever did her homeschooling with her, right? You have your parents,
yeah,
and they act as your executive function. So you don't need to use your executive
yeah,
functions the way that you do in college. And then when you're left to your own devices, things
yeah,
become real.
yeah. And thank God for the great, great people at that school. I mean, she
Oh,
was
yes.
once she found out, she was a whole different kid. It was great. So that's kind of leads to the next. You've created this free summit. It's the ADHD Ed Camp. What inspired you to launch that, and what kind of transformation have you seen in the attendees who participate in it?
Yeah, so this upcoming year will be, I think, our 6th one or 7th one. I don't even remember. I think it's 7th. And I created it in 2020 because that was February 2020 was the first one, right before COVID really got bad. But I created it because what I noticed is that a lot of people, especially then, had no idea where to go or turn to get ADHD information. And they would just like maybe listen to a friend or try this person out, but they don't know if it's the right person, the right what they need. Um, and also some people could not afford to be able to actually because not insurance doesn't cover ADHD coaching in most places, right? I know, don't even get me started. Um, FSA and HSA does, but insurance not so much. And sometimes, especially after 2020, it's really hard to find a therapist or even a psychiatrist because the ones who take insurance were especially flooded with clients, so they didn't have as much availability. So anyway, I created this summit as a way for people to connect, share stories, gain tools and information on who or where they can find what they need for their ADHD and actually walk away with strategies. And then a community afterwards. We have a Facebook community, ADHD Ed Camp. People can join that even if they haven't attended an ADHD Ed Camp. And yeah, they feel like they're less alone and they are moved, connected, and empowered.
Yeah, that's beautiful because community is everything. And like you said, if they haven't had that support and the shame, like, I don't think there's anything worse than living with shame, right? I mean,
Mm.
that's got to be just so heavy on you constantly. That's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. I can't, I'd imagine that your participants are just, changed, transformed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even think about it because we've been talking a lot about momming, right? If you're doing momming by yourself and you can't talk to your kids about your struggles, right? You can't talk to your husband because he doesn't necessarily get it. But then you have a community of other moms or parents that get it,
Yeah.
then you feel less alone and you feel less shame because you're not the only one going through this. So we had actually put together, especially on the first one and continued, 30 experts in ADHD, psychiatrists, therapists, leading experts, coaches, educational consultants, college counselors, everything, you name it. And they literally just like, we got nothing out of it but the joy of seeing everyone empowered. But me and your friend, Dr. Christina Seamster, put this together and created a platform for 30 experts to speak at the same time, 10 at a time. So you can choose, you can go in and out of every room, like the law of 2 feet, ADHD style. So you don't have to just listen to one person at a time, right? And then you walk away with that information. And literally, all we get from it is the joy of bringing people together so they feel less shame.
That is so incredible, which kind of leads to there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially about this
Lots.
topic. So what's one of the biggest myths about ADHD that you wish more people, especially educators, parents, really understood better?
That we're not lazy, we're not dumb, we're not motivated, right? We have a neurological condition, not necessarily a psychological condition,
Right.
right? We're a neurological condition that is very ingrained into our executive functions and our dopamine levels. So going back to what we were saying about Adam Levine and some of these really successful ADHDers, if you have the right tools, if you can manage your dopamine levels, if you can overcome a lot of that shame that you've definitely grown up with, you can thrive. Do you know one ADHDer, right, who, if they're extremely motivated about something, can't do anything?
No, I don't. I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they need the right conditions, they need the right tools. So just because someone has ADHD, the traditional setting in work or school needs to be adapted for their needs.
Yeah.
You have to meet your kid, yourself, where you are. And a lot of companies are bringing in experts to talk about ADHD. I talked to IBM. I'm talking to Capital One about this because the neurodiversity space and the DEI right now is expanded. Hopefully that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need more awareness, the right awareness, like you said, and we also need to be able to be put into an environment where we can thrive and accommodated.
See, I think that's beautiful. And I think that's why, typical, let's just say elementary school where kids are expected to sit there, right? Like,
Are you kidding me? Like, first of all, no brain is meant to focus for 8 hours. That's insane. So now you're forcing a child to sit in a chair and listen when their processing speed might be slower because they have ADHD. And then maybe they have a difficult time reading, but they need movement to help with their stimulation, but you're
yeah,
forcing them to
yeah,
sit in a seat. Like and then you're punishing them
yeah.
because they're not listening, and
Mhm.
then you're taking away their PE, which they need
Right,
for
right,
movement.
right.
Does it make sense?
No, it doesn't. And I thank God for this woman, Connor's fourth grade teacher every day, right? I mean, he's 24 now, but I go back to this woman. She was a beautiful woman named Mrs. Moses Brown. And we had a conference with her, and she said, I think Connor, you should get him tested, blah, blah, blah. And she would say, Connor, stand up and take a walk. Just go for a walk. Right. Cause she could tell
She gets it.
when he was checked out. She could
Yeah.
tell. This woman was teaching for 30 years. She understood boys in fourth and fifth grade. Right. And there was never any punishment or shame or, I mean, she was wonderful. And honestly, that is how we found out, because we had a nice, we'd always go in and check with his teachers, all the kids' teachers, but thank God for
Yes.
people like that as
There are
opposed.
some great
Yeah.
teachers out there, and there's some great schools that provide wonderful training with experts going in and helping people understand neurodivergence.
Yeah.
But I told you in my undergrad, I had one special education course in elementary education. So I could have been a general education teacher with one class about special education, going in there, pretty much knowing nothing
Right.
about ADHD or anything.
Yeah.
So it just shows that, like, we need to know more. There needs to be more.
Yes. Yes. That's so wonderful. And thank goodness you are all over the place from Chopa Global to what is it? Attitude magazine.
Attitude, yeah.
Attitude, right? So when you're speaking to such wide audiences, what message do you always try to leave people with about ADHD and the people who have it?
Yeah, we're not lazy, we're not dumb, we're not unmotivated. If you have the right tools and accountability, you can thrive with your ADHD. You can be empowered, you can be confident. We just need the right systems for us.
Yeah. That's incredible. You've really built something so special and so worthwhile. So looking ahead, what's your vision for the future of ADHD coaching and support? And what would you love to see change in the world, the world views about ADHD?
Yeah, I think for ADHD coaching and support, I wish it was more mainstream. I wish it was just something that everyone got who needed it, right? And it wasn't such a barrier to access, or people like, I didn't know what ADHD coaching was before I became an ADHD coach.
Yeah.
So I think there's more of that now, but I've really moved a lot of my focus into training ADHD coaches with my System 3C activation so that they can plug and play with their clients, and then it can create like that ripple effect to make it more mainstream. So like in India and other countries where they might not be able to afford a US coach, now take this program and then use it for your clients, for your family, right? And make the ripple effect. So I wish that ADHD coaching was more mainstream, just like going to school. That's my hope for the future. And then our goal as a company is to impact 1 billion individuals with ADHD information over the next 5 years. So we've already hit 10 million.
Wow.
We're moving up. Yeah.
That is incredible. And, that's kind of like, how we feel at Centerpoint, right? Like if mindfulness, if awareness was actually taught from the time, in school, and instead of punishing kids with, letting them sit there and stare at their phones, if they actually taught them how to meditate as opposed to like,
Oh my gosh.
sit in the classroom by yourself after school and stare at your phone. What does that do for a child? That does nothing, right? That does
No, it
nothing.
makes them more mad and they're not learning. So you're just punishing the behavior. And perhaps in the short term, they'll do what you want them to do out of fear, but it will make no long-term
No long term.
resolution. And it's going to create terrible self-esteem for them. So work with them, work with their learning style, their executive function strengths, learn with what they're interested in. Like you said, like Connor is interested in videos, right? In YouTube, right? Meet your child where they're at. My stepson, he's not diagnosed with it, but I believe he also has dyslexia along with ADHD. So he thrives with listening to an audiobook and reading at the same time. He can read so much faster and get so much out of it. He's a verbal learner because of his challenges with reading. So it's not that they can't learn, they just have to learn differently.
Yes. Yes. All right. So before we wrap up, I know you have something special for everyone listening today, and I can't wait to hear about it. So tell us what it is and how our audience can access it.
Sure. So I have a big executive function questionnaire that will help you understand your strengths, your weaknesses with executive function. You could take it as an adult, you can take it as a child, and then it provides information along with that to actually implement immediately.
Wow. That's great. Where do people need to go to get that?
So you can go to coachingwithbrooke.com and go to resources and go to executive function questionnaire, or I can just leave the link in the show notes when you publish this as well.
Fantastic. Fantastic. We'll put the URLs right underneath there. Make sure it's easy for everyone to get it. So now that you're listening, it's right there. Easy peasy to get. And please do.
Another,
Go ahead.
me interrupting, and sorry, it just came to my mind. I had asked my assistant, you need an assistant if you have ADHD, if you're in the workplace or a child, right? If like you need someone as a COO of your brain to help you. But I had asked my assistant, if you comment center point in my DMs on Coaching with Brooke on Instagram, it will also give you the link.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. And we'll make sure that link is everywhere. Thank you so much, Brooke, for sharing your wisdom, your vulnerability, your incredible energy with us today. I know our listeners, especially the moms, the ADHDers, and the people who love them, are walking away feeling seen, supported, and inspired. And as always, I want to thank everyone for being part of the Brains Are Us family. Until next time, be kind to your brain and keep showing up for yourself. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Brains Are Us, brought to you by Centerpoint Research Institute. Want to try out our proprietary HoloSync brain-enhancing technology that's been changing lives for 35 years? Just visit myholosync.com/stream for a free 15-minute HoloSync session and feel the difference for yourself today. Until next time, be kind to your mind.